It's your girl, B, here with another episode of Sip and Spill, where we sip on drinks while spilling the tea on dating and relationships. So, in today's episode, I will be talking about why I was a pick me girl. So, we'll be defining what a pick me girl is, and I'll be telling some embarrassing moments that I look back at and realize, oh wow, you really were a pick me, sis. You really were one. That is not cute. And then stay tuned until the end because I'll be sharing some stories that y'all shared with me about your pick me girl moments. So let's get into it. So first, whoa there, buddy. I'm trying to be professional with this little outline and it done fell on the table. So anyway, first let's define what a pick me girl is. And this is based off of the Urban Dictionary. According to the Urban Dictionary, a pick me girl is a girl who seeks male validation by indirectly or directly insinuating that she's not like the other girls. For example, she may have or present herself to have more guy friends because they're less problematic and catty than women are. And I have to be honest, I definitely was that girl that convinced myself that it was okay to have more guy friends because they were less problematic and less dramatic and blah, 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 this and blah, 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 that. And let me just tell you this, as a grown woman now, men are just as messy as women are, just in different ways. And for whatever reason, we convinced ourselves that they are not, but they definitely are. They definitely are. They just go about it in very different ways. But anyway, so that's the definition of a pick me girl. And when I think about when I consider myself to be a pick me girl, when I look back and reflect on before I became the woman I am today, who just genuinely does not give a fuck about how men feel about me. A big thing was I would allow men to vent to me a lot about women, but also referring to women as bitch. And now I don't play that. Let's not do that. I used to try to justify it by saying, oh, he's not calling me a bitch, blah, blah, blah. No, I don't need to be around somebody who's referring to women as bitches anyway, and damn sure don't feel comfortable enough to do that around me. I know some people disagree, but I don't care. I feel like I don't want you saying that around me because it never made me feel comfortable. I would convince myself I was okay with it because you were talking about other women, but no, I'm not okay with it. And honestly, I never was. I wasn't comfortable with it. I just convinced myself I was because I was trying to make you feel comfortable so that I felt validated by you. But now, don't give a shit. Another example is, oh my goodness, I would always cook and clean for men. And it's like, yo, sis, why? And it wasn't even like dudes I would be dating. I don't mind cooking for my friends and stuff like that, but it would be, I don't know, it would just be random situations. And I would just be like, oh, I can cook breakfast. Oh, I can cook dinner. Oh, I can cook. Cause I do like to cook. But it's like, it wasn't like I was hosting anything. It wasn't like I was having an event or anything along that nature. I was really just offering to cook for niggas so that I was like, I don't know, I guess I felt validated in the sense of like that I was able to present that. Who knows? But cooking and cleaning for these men who don't deserve it, which I've definitely done multiple times, presenting myself to be more of a player than I actually was. Because in reality, I'm a simp for real. I definitely presented myself to be a player. Like, oh, I got hoes. I would really refer to men as hoes and all that type of stuff. Trust and believe, I am a simp for real. I know some of my friends are going to be watching this in shock, but it's the God honest truth. I don't know why I felt the need to present myself that way, but I catch feelings. I love hard. That's just me. And I think me presenting myself as a player definitely did more bad than good for me when I look back to my dating history and all of that. But yeah, definitely was a simp, but I was presenting myself as a quote unquote player. Oh my goodness. I paid bills before to stand out. Literally, my ex would hit me up, ask me to pay his phone bill. And this was when we were in the dating phase. We weren't even in a relationship yet. That should have been a red flag. But at that time, my common sense didn't kick in. So I was just like, oh, yeah, no problem. I'll send you the money. Or, oh, because this was before Cash App, Venmo, all of those were a thing. So I would literally sign into whatever, I would sign into whatever phone company that he had and pay the bill. And it's for what? For what? And as you can imagine, that relationship did not last because he was trifling, beyond trifling. But at that time, pick me. Oh, yeah, a big one for me was definitely going with the flow. Yeah, let me sip on that because what was I thinking, child? Yeah, sorry if that sounds disgusting. I'm drinking sparkling rosé and it is quite delicious. But anyway, I definitely was that girl who would make it seem like I just wanted to go with the flow and figure out where things are going before I commit to anything and blah 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 blah. When in reality, that's not me at all. One of my best friends had a real conversation with me and she was just like, "Girl, you're definitely a relationship type." And it never clicked to me because I was presenting it to guys as if I was this go with the flow girl, but in reality, I think subconsciously I was hoping that going with the flow would make me end up in a relationship, and that's never how that happens. Unless y'all are on the same page, but me and the person were never on the same page. So I would convince myself that I wanted to go with the flow, hoping that one day he would change how he felt, or hoping that one day things would lead to another thing. And then I actually started believing myself that I was okay with going in the flow, when in reality, I've never been the type that really wanted to go with the flow. So why did I try to convince myself and this person that I was cool with going with the flow? Oh, that's right, because I was a pick me. And I thought that because I would hear this person complain, and I'm not speaking of one specific person, I'm speaking of in general. I would hear this person complain about women wanting too much or asking for too much or being too strong or this and da 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 that. And so I felt, oh, let me be not like these other girls because I'm not like other girls, blah, 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 blah. I'ma just go with the flow. But where did that get? Exactly. Nowhere. There was nothing wrong with any of the girls who were out there making it clear what their intentions were from the gate. The problem was that the dude was not trying to give her what she wanted. So she moved on to the next. Me, on the other hand, because I was seeking male validation and I found somebody who I liked, which was rare for me, I felt, oh, since he said that, let me just go with the flow of what he wants. If I'm not applying pressure, why would you move forward? If I'm just going with the flow of what you want, you're going to get exactly what you want out of me while I'm sitting here miserable. My anxiety is going up. I'm confused, and you're content and happy because you're getting everything you want. So yeah, that was another one. And I think the biggest revelation for me that I was definitely a pick me is going to shock probably anybody who knows me, because I actually just recently, and when I say recently, I mean in the past 2 months, came to the realization that I don't really like sports. And that is crazy to me because sports has always been a part of my life. I started playing basketball at a young age. I went into track and field. Always would watch football games. I would watch NBA. I would go to track meets. I would even go to baseball games. I've been to soccer games. My first professional sport game that I went to was a hockey game. And now that I think about it, I really do not care that much about sports. Now, it's not that I don't like sports. I definitely like sports. That's not what I'm saying, but I think what I'm realizing now is that I don't care about them nearly as much as I thought I did. And it's because I think it's also because I'm coming to the realization a lot of the reason why I was so attached to sports was because it was a conversation I could have with men. And I remember like I would be able to talk sports with a guy, any guy, whether it was somebody I was dating, a friend, somebody I just met, whatever. They were always impressed that I knew what I was talking about because I was really into it. I would watch like I would watch sports channels. I would watch First Take. I would watch Skip and Shannon. I would watch analysts. Different analysts. I would watch all types of stuff. So I knew what I was talking about. But when I really sat down and thought about it, I really don't care that much about sports at all. And the older I get, the less I watch it. And the reason I think is not just because I'm busier, but it's more so because I never really cared for it to begin with. I enjoy it now and then. I'm a Steelers fan. I'm definitely going to watch a Steelers game. I like LeBron, but I don't like LeBron enough to watch 82 games. So I'll see you in the playoffs if you make it. Might catch a game here and there if it's a major rival, but I'm not watching every single game every week. I'm just not doing that anymore. And at a point I was, but I realized I think that a lot of it had to do with one, I had gained a good amount of male friends. And then when I would date men, I would usually attract men who were into sports, or I was dating athletes. It was just something I could talk to about that was different. And I was trying to differentiate myself as if I wasn't like these other girls. But in reality, I am. And I'm okay with that now. But yeah, sports was a huge revelation for me because when I tell you, I recently had this conversation with my best friend. We were on the phone and I admitted that to her. And when I tell you, she literally was like, I think you need to get back into therapy. It was dead serious because that was such a huge part of my identity, was being the sports girl. And so the fact that I'm realizing that I really don't care that much is weird. I honestly can't remember the last game that I just sat through the whole thing and watched it from start to finish. And I used to do that every week, every game. And it's just crazy to me because it's now, unless it's a big game, or I still enjoy going to games in person and stuff like that. But unless it's something like that, I genuinely do not care at all. And it's crazy. But yeah, I'm going to tell you guys a story. This is probably one of the most embarrassing pick-me moments that I have ever had. So one time I was talking to this guy when I was in college. It was my senior year. And yeah, so I knew he was really into 2K and he was talking about he was going to play 2K or something like that. So we agreed to link up one weekend. And I remember I had an Xbox at the time. Why I had an Xbox, I don't know, because I never grew up playing games. So I still to this day can't identify why I owned an Xbox, because I never grew up playing games ever at all. Never. But I had an Xbox, and so I went to the Walmart up the street from my apartment and I bought the newest 2K, and I taught myself for 3, 4, maybe 5 days, because I forget when we agreed he was coming. But I remember when we agreed he was coming, that same night, I went to Walmart, bought 2K, the newest version. I practiced playing, had no idea how complex 2K was, because I had played Madden before. And Madden was not, in my opinion, nearly as hard as 2K. So I thought because I had Madden down, 2K would be a breeze. I know the teams. I know most of the players. I should be good. No. 2K is one of those games where you literally have to learn each individual player, piece by piece, player by player. And I didn't have the time to do that because I literally got it a few days before he was coming to my house. So he comes to my house and we start playing 2K. And he's playing along with me. I'm thinking I'm doing okay because it's like I'm getting some shots in. He's getting some shots in. So I'm thinking everything's good. And then out of nowhere, he starts doing all these tricks. And I'm like, wait a minute. And then he was like, oh, wait, that's right. We're just playing. He basically implied I was a beginner or whatever. He was like, oh, that's right. We're just doing this for fun. This is in competition. So then he went back to playing the way I was playing, which was real basic. I was able to do free throws, layups, might hit you with a 3-pointer once in a blue moon, but that was as far as it went. And he was over here every so often hitting me with all types of stuff, dunks, all types of tricks. It was just embarrassing. So finally, I remember he said to me when I cut the game off before we finished, but he said to me, he was like, "Was that your first time playing?" And I was so embarrassed because I'm just like, I can't believe I went through all of this. Of course, he would know that I've never played 2K before. He's been playing for years. I just bought this game a few days ago, and I was trying to make it seem like I was so into 2K, like it was my thing. No, girl, no, stop. You were very embarrassing. So I guess I had to really reflect on why I needed validation from men to begin with, because it's like, for what? Why couldn't I just show up as my true self? Why did I have to present myself as this down with the guys type girl? Why did I have to fit in with the guys? Why was that a thing? And when I think about when it really started in grade school, middle school, high school time, because I never felt desired by boys, I guess at that time, but guys in general. I always was the girl who was overlooked, or I was told. I remember in middle school, I can think all the way back to in middle school, I would be told that my friend looked better than me, or that so and so looked better than me. Guys would flat out tell me this. These are my friends or whatever. And they would flat out tell me this person looked better than me, or I should do this more like this person because she looks better than me. And then I think I started putting in my head that nobody wanted me. As I would continue on with these friendships with these people who, now looking back, I definitely shouldn't have been friends with them at all, because they clearly weren't good for me or my mental health at that age. But regardless, at that time, I continued on being friends with them. And I don't know, I felt like my way in with the guys, since they didn't desire me, was trying to differentiate myself from the girls, right? So I would be the listening ear, to the point where I pretty much became one of the guys. I was that girl who became one of the guys, where I would be out with them just hanging out and they would just talk to me like I was one of the fellas. I can't, that happened to me so many times. It's ridiculous. They would flat out, and to this day, I feel like people will say to me at times, "Oh, wow, guys are real comfortable talking to you," or they'll watch old podcasts I've done, not necessarily this one, but other ones I've done where I was the only girl on the show. And it's like, I can hold my own because for so long I was used to being that girl. And I think part of it had to do with the fact, like I said, I was trying to fit in with the guys because I felt like they didn't desire me. So my way of fitting in was by differentiating myself from the other girls, right? So I would take notes of what they would complain about, not necessarily about my friends, but more so about just girls in general. And that's when I started doing the thing of feeling like I needed to go with the flow, or I would let them talk this about girls or women around me. For what's that, almost a decade of my life, I was basically that girl who guys felt so comfortable to come to and talk reckless about women and say how we aren't this and we aren't that and we don't do this and we don't do that and we're to blame for this and we're to blame for that, and just dragging women. And I would make them feel comfortable enough to do that around me, and I would make it seem to them like I agreed with them, even though deep down I didn't. But I started convincing myself that I did, to the point where sometimes I would flat out even tell my female friends, "Oh no, you tripping, this, that." Now, sometimes they were tripping, don't get it wrong. Sometimes they definitely were tripping and they needed to hear that. But there also were times where it was like I was taking the guy's point of view over hers. And when I think back to that, there was really no reason, for one, for me to take a side at all. But two, there really wasn't a reason for me to throw her under the bus to make him look better just to validate a man. Because I just felt like I needed validation from men. And it got to the point where it was no longer just like validation from a man because I wanted to be desired. It was just validation from men in general, whether it was guy friends or people I was dating or whatever it was. I wanted to be, for whatever that reason, subconsciously, I wanted to be that girl that was that go-to. And this girl, what is wrong with you? I really look back at my old self and I'm just think to myself, like, what were you going through, sis? What happened? What, I know what happened now, but it's just like, Jesus, what in the world? Whoo-wee. What else was I gonna say? Okay. I'm rambling. So going back, when I think about how I became this pick me girl and I go back to, like I said, not feeling desired and then becoming this go to girl for all my guy friends, of course, that transitioned into my dating world as well. So it was like when I was dating, I was the girl who was going with the flow. I would let the man take the lead. Not that I don't think the man should take the lead, but I'm saying letting somebody lead me in a direction that I did not want to go. And that was the problem. I wanted to be that unproblematic girl. I didn't want to be the girl who he complained about. I didn't want to be the girl who was putting too much pressure on him because that's what they all complained about. I didn't want to be that girl who was doing too much or was too this or too that or too emotional or he didn't feel comfortable talking to because she took everything personal or blah, 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 this and blah, 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 that. And so I just became that girl who was just going with the flow and trying to be as unproblematic as possible when I was really doing myself a disservice because by doing that, I was literally just in the back seat of a car that I didn't even realize I was in the back seat of, because then I'd be confused why the guy who I would be going with the flow with would end up in a relationship with somebody who was the complete opposite of me. Somebody who was applying pressure, somebody who was being very intentional about what she wanted, somebody who was comfortable in her feminine energy, somebody who was very emotional, all of those things. And I'm just like, so I'm trying to do exactly the opposite of what he complains about. And then he ends up in a relationship with exactly what he complains about. Clearly, I'm doing something wrong, right? But that common sense didn't kick in until later. So it's just, I just kept finding myself in this cycle where when I would start liking somebody, which is rare because it's very rare that I like somebody. But when I would start liking somebody, I would just start going with the flow of what they wanted so that I could be unproblematic and all those things. And I cared more about how they felt about me than I felt about me, or how they felt about how I presented myself than how I felt about how I presented myself. Cared more about us having a good time together, just chilling, not going nowhere, or if we did go somewhere, more so somewhere he wanted to go or things of that nature, until it kicked to me, why are you living this life? And then it's weird too, because only one person I was in a relationship with was like that, was like with the whole go with the flow, just leading me astray type of way. Out of my three exes, only one of them was leading me in the wrong direction. The other two, they were very intentional about dating me and what their intent was with me. But for whatever reason, when we would break up, the people I would date after them, for whatever reason, I didn't continue down that path. I would go backwards instead of forward. I would go back to the people who made me feel uncertain about myself, the people who I didn't feel like I could embrace my femininity with, or all those type of things. What I would find is that when I would go with the flow or whatever, a lot of guys would tell me that I came off very nonchalant. I was hard to read. I exuded a lot of masculine energy. I more so got that from guy friends than guys I was dating, but whatever. I don't know why I did that for as long as I did, but I'm just so thankful that I got out of it and that I can now look back and reflect on it and hopefully help somebody else get out of it, because the only person you're doing a disservice to is yourself when you go down that path of feeling like you're doing what you're doing for the validation of men. It's just, and I think that's why I was anxious all the time. I questioned myself a lot, is because I wasn't validating myself. I was seeking validation, not just from men, but in general. I was seeking validation from other people. But in the dating space, I wasn't attracting necessarily the men that were a better fit for me, because I was seeking validation from men who I shouldn't have Well, one, I should have been seeking that validation in myself. I shouldn't have been seeking validation from a man to begin with. So, because of that, since I wasn't being my real self, of course, I'm not going to attract somebody who's going to want the real me because I myself wasn't putting myself out there. It's just like it's a catch 22. You can't expect to get something that you don't put out. Put out the energy that you want to receive, and that energy will come back to you. And another thing, too, that I've noticed as I've gotten older is that I do not enjoy having male friends anymore. I spend significantly less time with my guy friends. And I think it's because I don't feel comfortable around them anymore. The stuff that they talk about or how they felt so comfortable talking down on women around me, or even sometimes how they would talk about me or say certain comments about me. And it's like they felt comfortable doing those things because of how I presented myself for years. But now that I've come into really becoming my true self and really validating me and not seeking that validation elsewhere, I don't see a reason to allow somebody to make me feel uncomfortable in my space anymore. I guess if you're in my space and I'm uncomfortable around you, I don't need to be in that space anymore. So it's like now I speak up on how I feel, and I think it catches a lot of people off guard because I definitely wasn't really doing that before. I would let, like I said earlier, I would let my guy friends call women bitches around me. Now, I will definitely correct you on that because I don't like that. I do not like it at all. I'm a woman and I don't need to be hearing you refer to women as that because why? There's other words that you can use, there's other things that you can do, and it makes me uncomfortable. And it always made me uncomfortable. It's just I previously presented it as if it was okay and it's not. Or, like I said, I would present myself as a player back in the day when I still don't understand why I presented myself to be that way because I never really was. But now it's like I have my guy friends who still will refer to me as this player or I'm this or I'm that. I just try to stay away from them. And it's really hard now for me to sustain friendships with my male friends because I don't care to anymore. I really don't. I don't care to. I feel like there's only a very small few, and I mean very small, like it's not even a handful of guy friends who I still am like, okay, cool. But for the most part, I don't want to be around y'all no more because y'all still try to talk to me the same way you did back in the day. I can't blame them for talking to me the way that I presented myself to be back then because I presented myself to be that way. But now that I'm presenting myself to my true self, and now that I'm presenting myself as me, I'm not interested in being around anybody who's going to continue trying to put me in a lane I'm not in. We've moved forward. So, yeah, I definitely have way more female friends than male friends. And even that is crazy because I don't really have that many friends anymore. But that just comes with age. If you're young, you'll learn that having a lot of friends is not cute. It's really not. It's not the wave. But I just have less friends in general. But the vast majority of them are absolutely women. And I much rather be around my friends that are women than my guy friends any day. Any day. So, yeah, the lesson that I've definitely learned is that this whole pick me girl shit is for the birds. It does not work. Whatever you think that it's supposed to do, it's not. Excuse me. Embrace your femininity or embrace your true self because there's way more power in that than trying to present yourself to be something you're not and trying to present yourself in a way that you think that guys want you, because something that you'll figure out over time is that the exact thing that the men who you are seeking validation from complain about is exactly what they want. They complain about exactly what they end up with because that's exactly what they want. So rather than trying to fit in with the guys and be this differentiating factor, just be yourself because If you try to do all of that, you're just going to end up in the back seat like the rest of us pick me girls. And it is not cute back there. Yeah. Let's get into this mess. So I'm going to be reading some of the examples that y'all sent to me. So just give me a second. All right, I'm back. So now I'm going to get into some of the mess that y'all sent me about your embarrassing moments being a pick me girl. And I'll be honest, some of these made me feel a lot better about myself. So I had tweeted out, my pick me days led men to believe I truly agreed with the nonsense that came out their mouth. I was my own worst enemy, which is the God honest truth. I really was. And then I asked a question in my IG story. Like I put that in my IG story and I posted, ladies, what was your most embarrassing pick me moment? Let's get into it. First one, I bought a guy flowers for Valentine's Day. Yo, I'm sorry. And I know because I asked DM'd her and asked her, was it because he wasn't getting nothing? And she basically was saying he said how guys don't get anything for Valentine's Day. And he hadn't gotten her anything in the previous Valentine's Day. So she wanted to stand out. So she bought him flowers. And of course, he was confused. I'm sure he showed fake appreciation the way that men love to do, but yeah. Another girl said, girl, I paid his rent and still ain't get chose. Now, listen, I've had my moments. I paid bills, but that was phone bills when phone bills were like under $100. Rent? Nah. I ain't paying nobody's rent. Damn sure not a man that's not mine. That's crazy, sis. Like, I really hope that you learned a hell of a lesson from that, because wow. And he still ain't pick you. You paid his rent and he still didn't pick you. Oh no, absolutely not. Not today, not tomorrow, and not in the next life. Oh no. Started arguing with this is the next one. Started arguing with other women that women ain't shit, child. And it's crazy because, and I put this in my quote because I had to screenshot my archives because I couldn't remember what everybody said. But I even replied back to that and I said, we don't even realize that we're talking ourselves down just to make him think that we think like him. And it's like, girl, when you are basically arguing with other women that other women aren't shit because you want to validate a man, you realize that you yourself are a woman. And to a degree, you're saying you ain't shit. Not to say that some things you can get called out on, but it's like a lot of stuff they be complaining about is stuff that like they want for real. Like I was saying earlier, and it's just like you're talking yourself down to basically argue with another woman and women in general that women aren't shit just for the guy who you want to validate to end up with the woman or a woman like the woman who you're arguing with that ain't shit. It's just insanity. You really have convinced yourself, and I'm talking to myself too. Don't take this as I'm trying to attack anybody. I had to come to this realization to myself. I really convinced myself that women were the problem and that what the guy or the men who I was seeking validation from wanted was not that big of a deal. And clearly they're very simplistic creatures and blah, blah, blah this and blah, blah, blah that, and argue or tell other women that they're tripping because of this guy or these men's point of view, just for these same exact men. I lie to you not, it happens every single solitary time. Just for them to end up in a relationship with the exact same women or type of women that they would complain to me about. Yeah, no. Women are winning. I'm not arguing no more women that we ain't shit. And I hope this girl ain't either. Next, I took him to and from work every day. No gas money. Woo, we every day is a lot. I've done it a few times. There was this one guy, I took him to and from work, and then I started taking his mom too. And his mom worked far away. So it's like he already was out the way, and then his mom worked even further away. And I ain't asked for no gas money, nothing like that, just trying to get in there. So I get what you're saying. But every day, sis, I hope you got chose at least, because woo-wee. This girl said, girl, too many to count, probably dealing with someone I knew wasn't shit from get-go. We all been there. That ain't nothing new. I went to every single one of his little rap shows and he wasn't even good. Not his little rap shows. Oh my goodness. But sometimes you just gotta be supportive. I don't think that makes you a pick-me unless you were only going to those rap shows to stand out or differentiate yourself. But if you was really vibing with him, I don't feel like that makes you a pick-me. But yo, his little rap shows and he wasn't even good. That is hilarious. Paid his phone bill. Been there, done that, child. Never again. I called the Super Bowl the NFL National Championship. Technically it is, but it definitely is called the Super Bowl. So it's like, clearly you don't watch sports if that's what you call the Super Bowl. But go off, sis. You tried. Bought a jersey for his favorite team and pretended I liked football. So like... I'm sorry, that's funny. It's one thing if you're doing that with somebody who you're like, who's equally yoked with you, but if it's a pick-me situation, yeah, you did the absolute most with that. I let him borrow my car all the time and then found a used condom in the back seat. All right, bruh. Just throw me in prison. Throw me underneath the jail. Because if I let a young man take my vehicle, no questions asked, and I get back in my car and I see a used condom in the back seat and me and him were in the back seat, oh yeah, throw me underneath the jail. Cause like, what? Yeah, but no, I definitely have had like a situation where my ex, who I was referring to earlier, like my ex from college, he was like the only trifling ex I really had. He I let him use my car, and then I later found out down the line that he was using my car to like go drive to see like other women he was dealing with. But I didn't find that out until way later. But he was the only guy who I really allowed to use my car without me in it. And I learned my lesson not just from him, but also from like friends around me who were letting dudes use their car, and they would just have girls in their car. They would be smashing other girls in their car. One dude crashed my friend's car, and she had like a brand new BMW. This is when we were in college, and like he literally crashed her car and did not put up a dime to get it fixed. Like, so yeah, I don't just don't do it. Just don't do it. Like, just don't do it. But yeah, those were y'all's pick-me's. Real interesting. If you don't already, make sure you follow me on all social media is the same. It's iam.venice, VENIECE. That is my name. I occasionally post questions like that I'm gonna bring on the show. Also, make sure you follow the podcast page, Sippin' Spills, SIPANDSPILS, across all social media, all platforms, and that's our website, sippinspills.com, because we also will be posting stuff on there that may come on the show, and that's where we'll be doing 2 Cent Tuesdays. So yeah, thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed this episode, just do me a favor and make sure you share it with a friend. That would mean the world to me. Please keep me accountable, guys, because I'm committing to doing 2 episodes a week up into 100 episodes, and then we're gonna see what happens then. So hold me accountable. Miss doing this so much. I feel so much better. I don't know why I held myself back from coming back, because I love talking on the mic, love talking to you guys. But yeah, see you guys next week. Until next time, deuces.